guys, this week, we have been to Busch Gardens Tampa, SeaWorld Orlando, and FUNSPOT. In this video, we are actually going to be seeing what our top 16 rides are. By the way, Cheetah Hunt and Chic Girl were not open when we went, so those two rides are exempted from the list, and we also did not get a ride on Journey to Atlantis. So these are all the ones that we got to ride. So if you don't see one of your favorite rides on here, we're sorry about that one. We just didn't get a chance to ride. Anyway, and also, I'm here with Paws and Perfection.
Hello.
So, in this video, we're just going to be ranking our top 16 because we decided to head down to Florida together. Starting with number 16, we have
Sea Serpent at FunSpot America in Orlando.
Sea Serpent was a good kiddie coaster. They actually sent us around twice, but I don't think it was better than any other ride, but definitely the worst one out of all of them. It was also kind of rough. What do you think?
Yeah, it was pretty rough, but the airtime hills were actually kind of smooth-ish, but pretty rough mostly, and the restraints were not amazing. They were kind of uncomfortable a little bit, but...
Yeah, it kind of felt like we didn't even really have a restraint on. But moving on, number 15, we have Air Rover at Busch Gardens Tampa. Again, a kiddie coaster. But still, Air Rover was a good kiddie coaster. It just wasn't better than any of the others. It was fun, but I actually have a video of us, but it's not really a video. I just kind of used a picture and made it a video. But either way, it was really fun. I mean, it wasn't really fun, but it was enjoyable. It was a little bumpy going down the hill, but either way, it was pretty good. What are your opinions on it, Mr. Paws?
It was good. Again, we can't really put anything else above it or below it other than Sea Serpent. It's pretty much the exact same, except it has an extended layout and more helixes and stuff. But we really couldn't put it that high compared to everything else on this list because these are amazing parks.
Yeah, all these parks are really good. We are not doing we are doing a bias because it's our favorites. But you guys might not like some of our rankings and think we're crazy for them, but this is what we enjoy, so sorry if this isn't your valid list. Anyway, moving on to number 14, we have Freedom Flyer at FunSpot America in Orlando. Now, this ride was good. It had a good over-the-walkway section. I also have a video on this. 2 videos on this. Well, shorts. But it was a good coaster overall. It was enjoyable. But I don't think it could be placed any higher, and it couldn't go below Air Rover or Sea Serpent. What are your opinions?
I hated putting it very low, but again, there's just too many good rides above it. This ride was actually really enjoyable. We actually did this 3 times the entire time, so it was worth riding, but again, there's just too many rides that are better.
Yeah, I could totally agree with that. And again, moving on to number 13, a really big hot take. Kumba! I know. The only thing that really made it this low is because of the headbanging. The headbanging on this ride was bearable, but I had a headache after these rides. But it was honestly really enjoyable. The double inversion was good. And all the inversions were really forceful. But again, can't really put it any higher.
People are gonna think we're insane, but it's just our opinion. Kumba at number 13 would sound insane to like any ordinary person watching this right now. It's just not better than the other rides on this list. We just didn't enjoy Kumba as much as we did everything else. It just I don't know. It just wasn't higher than anything else.
And moving on to number 12, the one thing that people are really going to think we're crazy for, putting Phoenix Rising and number 12 in front of Kumba. We only really liked Phoenix Rising because, again, the over-the-walkway sections I really enjoyed. It was a good swinging, actually. It didn't really feel like... It wasn't even a swinging coaster, but you were swaying a lot the whole time. But either way, Phoenix Rising had some really good theming in the queue line and even the animations in the background in the station. Although they did freeze up a few times when we were in line, but that's probably just because it was really windy that day and a lot of the rides were closing down.
Yeah, that Phoenix at the end was really good, and the whole theme was just pretty cool. Very smooth. I was not expecting it to be that smooth. I know it was brand new, so it's probably going to be smoother than most other rides. But yeah, the theming was pretty good. The restraints were pretty comfortable, in my opinion. The average person might not agree with me, but I thought the restraints were comfortable and the ride was pretty enjoyable. Hands up all the time, like it was pretty comfortable.
Yeah, I could lap Phoenix Rising all day. It's a really lappable coaster. Either way, moving on to number 11, we have White Lightning at FunSpot America in Orlando. I feel like I don't have to say that Orlando part as much as I do. But White Lightning is a really good Woody. It's a GCI. It's gotta be good. Some of you guys can disagree with me. But GCI is a really good company. But White Lightning had some really good pacing. It felt like there were like 0 breaks on this ride. You were going and going the whole time. We got 4 laps on this thing. We had the ride pass because we were only there for I think we were there for a good 3 hours. But we got 1 ride on Sea Serpent, we got a ride on the bumper cars, 4 on White Lightning, and 3 on Freedom Flyer. So overall, all the rides there were pretty enjoyable, but Icebreaker is our number 10. So, oh wait, sorry, I forgot to ask you your opinions on White Lightning. My mistake.
It's fine, but GCIs are either smooth or rough depending on which one. Mystic Timbers at Kings Island could be considered smooth, but also rough by a lot of people. This one was pretty smooth in my opinion, and it just felt like it kept going and going, and the chain lift was like exactly like Mystic because that's just what we're used to naturally. Kings Island's our home park, so it's just what we're used to. So we got kind of nostalgic from that lift hill, so it was a pretty good ride.
Yeah, especially since it's the off season right now, and I only got to go once during Winterfest. Too cold down here, or up there, whatever you say. But depends where you are. But either way, I really enjoyed White Lightning, and like you said, GCI is a really hit or miss company. Anyway, moving on to number 10, we have Icebreaker at SeaWorld Orlando. A lot of people are going to think we're crazy, but I don't think this is like my second ever switch track coaster I've been on. Switch tracks just amaze me on how they work. And also, it had some really good elements that reminded me of Top Thrill 2. And especially the rollbacks and everything. That was really, really enjoyable. So we only got 1 ride on this, but that's just because the waits kept getting longer and longer. But I think we waited about a good 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then later in the day it got up to be 40 minutes to 70 minutes. But overall, Icebreaker's a really enjoyable coaster. Probably like an 8.5 if I were to rate it. But either way, let's see what Mr. Paw's ratings are.
So I thought this was really good because I rode Top Thrill 2, and this is another hot take, but Top Thrill 2 is my favorite ride that I've ever been on. I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous to the average person because of Steel Vengeance and rides that aren't even at Cedar Point, like Fury 325, Velocicoaster, and other stuff like that.
Iron
But this
Gwazi.
future references. And then definitely reminded me of Top Thrill 2, so I really enjoyed that. It felt like I was going up that top hat at 120 miles per hour again, but in reality, it wasn't even close to that, but it still felt like that anyway.
Yeah, definitely not 120 miles per hour on a family ride. But anyway, moving on to number 9, another hot take. We have Cobra's Curse at Busch Gardens Tampa. Cobra's Curse was a really mind-blowing coaster. From the elevator track to the really long backward section of the track, it was a really enjoyable coaster from start to finish. It had some really, really good theming in the queue line and even just on the track. Alrighty, also sorry if you hear a little bit of football in the background, we have that planned, but we're trying to overall keep it quieter. Anyway, let's see what Mr. Paws says about about Cobra's Curse.
Nice lag there. Anyway, the theming was pretty good. I thought the queue line was better than the entire ride, in my opinion, but the queue line was really good, and just snake rides. I love snake ride theming and stuff like that. I thought the ride was pretty good. That elevator track felt pretty sketchy, and we just got put in the back row. We didn't even ask to go back there. We just got put there, and that drop at the end when we went backwards was not exactly expected from us, but we just did it, and it was a pretty good ride at the end. But I just think the other 8 are better.
Yeah, I could agree, but Cobra's Curse, Yeah, definitely. We kind of went in blinded. We didn't know what to expect on it other than the elevator track. But either way, we're moving on to number 8. We have Penguin Trek at SeaWorld Orlando. Another hot take for this one, but Penguin Trek was really good for a family slash kiddie coaster. I feel like it was a mix of both. But I did feel like it wasn't even a family coaster. That multi launch was really good. It had some really good elements to add to the ride. But either way, it was a really good ride. It was enjoyable, and it was a good family coaster for starters, especially if you're growing out of Air Grover and all those. But overall, really enjoyable. I could. That's another one that I could ride all day.
I thought this ride was incredibly smooth, and the launch definitely caught me off guard because of how fast it was. This did not feel like 40 something miles per hour, 43, I think, but this ride was incredible, and either Penguin Trek or Manta is the best themed ride of the entire time. It'll vary between day to day for me, but today it feels like Manta is the better theming, but Penguin Trek has really good theming. Like, the entire area is themed really well, and I really like what they did there.
Yeah, well, I could agree definitely with Manta having some really good theming, especially in the queue line with all the fish and stuff. And I honestly really just enjoy watching stingrays. And either way, we're moving on to number 7, Tigress at Busch Gardens, Tampa. Tigress is a really enjoyable coaster. It's nice and short. Usually doesn't have too long of a line, or at least when we were there. Because we looked at the queue lines today and it got up to about an hour. I think it highest wait we saw today was 90 minutes, so an hour and a half. Really, Tigers had a really unexpected launch, and the 90-degree upward rollback was not expected either, especially with a really slow roll at the top. Probably one of my tallest inversions I've done, or one of the taller inversions I've done. But Tigers is a really enjoyable launch coaster and could be ridden over and over again.
I did not know what to expect on this ride at all, but that launch caught me off guard. And you literally like lean into your restraint on that like barrel roll at the top. But this ride was actually incredible, and it definitely caught me off guard for the second ride we did the entire trip. I thought this ride was really good. It does shut down for wind very easy, and it doesn't really test a lot. So that happens to us and probably a bunch of you too. It shuts down for wind and it doesn't really reopen because of the launch system and everything. And it also shuts down like every 20 minutes because they need to like test the launch system again. They need to give it a break, but it does shut down a lot. But when it's open, this ride is actually incredible.
Yeah, and although we don't quite know if it has to reset the launch and retest it, that's just what we're assuming because the same thing happens for Top Thrill 2 and a lot of other launch coasters. Although I did not notice that with Maverick whenever I went and rode that. Although all these rides are really enjoyable. But either way, we're moving on to number 6, which is Kraken at SeaWorld Orlando. Kraken, we kind of also went in blindsided for this one, but it was honestly really unexpectedly smooth, and it also has tunnels, which I really enjoy. But either way, it had some really smooth inversions and some really good ones too. It was just a really enjoyable ride overall. And it also had some decent theming in the tunnels.
I thought this ride would be like very, very rough, very shaky, like insanely rough, because it's one of the older rides at SeaWorld. But this ride was actually very smooth. It does shake a little bit, but it's not rough at all. And the inversions are actually really smooth, and you get a great view of Mako at the top of the lift hill, and we'll get to that soon.
Yeah, Mako will be coming up here in a few tiers, but either way, yeah, I could agree. Kraken had some really good inversions. Every ride nowadays is becoming a little bit shaky as it becomes 10 years old and even older. Like Diamondback's even becoming a little bit of a rattle. But either way, Diamondback's still a really good ride. Anyway, off topic. Number 5, we have Pipeline the Surf Coaster at SeaWorld Orlando. This ride was really unexpectedly good. That wave turn really sent you into the air. The inversion was really good. It was smooth. Everything was just kind of perfect in between. Like, there was nothing that you could change about this ride to make it better other than add another wave turn.
This ride was actually incredible. The launch was somewhat expected, but we rode this in the back row. We actually flew out of our seats. Both of us did. We were genuinely like jumping out of the seat unintentionally on that wave turn. That launch really catches you off guard. And the rest of the ride is really good. There's another curve late in the ride that also sends you flying. This was also a very smooth ride, probably the smoothest ride at SeaWorld, but this was probably one of the better rides there, and it really was.
Although I could disagree with the smoothest ride, I thought Icebreaker and Penguin Trek were really smooth, but that's also just because they're also really new. But again, it was really smooth and enjoyable. And yes, they really should add another wave turn. Moving on to number 4, we have Montu at Busch Gardens, Tampa. Montu is a really unexpected coaster. You expect it to go in and be in like Banshee, if you've ever been on that. That's what it kind of reminded me of when we were looking at it from the parking lot. But either way, Montu is a really good coaster. It has some good dip down elements and some really good loops and corkscrews and twists and turns, and all the elements on this ride were really good.
Yeah, Banshee, Raptor, Montu are pretty much all alike. Montu is really good, but it also shuts down very easy, just like Tigris. We rode Montu right after a lunch break, which was not necessarily a good idea, but it shut down like right after. Like we were on the first ride after the break, and it shut down right after. So it was literally open for one ride and just shut down. Very hit or miss to get to ride Montu. It's actually at the very back of the park, so it's hard to get to and it's hard to ride. But when you do get to ride it, it's a really good ride, and the inversions are pretty cool. It seems like it never ends.
Yeah, I could agree. Montu's right over by Cobra's Curse, and it actually really matches the theming with all the Egyptian and everything like that. At least I think it's Egyptian. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Montu is a really good coaster, and it does shut down pretty easy. I don't think Montu reopened for another good hour or two. So we got one of the last rides of the afternoon until it started becoming night and everything. Next up, we have number 3, which is Mako at SeaWorld Orlando. Mako was a really good coaster, as we said it was coming up after Kraken. Kraken and Mako give really good views of all the different rides, even though they're towards the back of the park, kinda, or like off to the side. They can give some really good views of Penguin Trek and even Pipeline. You can see some pretty good views from the top of Mako and Kraken. Mako was a really good hyper, and it had a ton of really good airtime hills. The drop was I wouldn't say the drop was bad. I thought it was okay. It was just like any other B&M hyper. It felt like Diamondback's drop, which was memorable, but all the way through, Mako was really just a bunch of airtime hills, in my opinion, but it was still really good to put in number 3.
Mako was incredibly good. The airtime was absolutely amazing. And I love that view of like the water right there, like that water underneath the track. I thought Mako looked really good. Although the station for the ride can get pretty congested, so it is hard to know like where you're going when you're boarding. But luckily it is 4 across, so if you want like a specific row, then you should be able to get that easier than you would like another ride like Pipeline the Surf Coaster. But this ride had a lot of good airtime and it was really good.
Yeah, the station can get really clogged up, but we actually thought we were going to front row until we were already a train in because of how blocked up the back row was. There was even a turnstile in the back row if you've been there, which is really surprising. I've never really seen a ride with a turnstile in the back row. I mean, it usually turns, but not usually a turnstile. Moving on to number 2, we have Manta at SeaWorld Orlando. Manta we did twice because I feel like if we would have done any more, we would have felt really sick the rest of the day. That pretzel loop was amazing. It had a ton of good forces. And if you sit in the very front all the way to the left, that little waterfall that you ride by, it can sometimes get your leg/knee wet, which it happened. My knee got basically soaked. Not really soaked, but enough to really feel it as you were walking around. Although it dried up fairly quickly, it was decently warm out. It was an enjoyable weather, I'll just say that. Although it has been kind of colder in Florida this weekend and everything. But either way, the weather was really enjoyable, and definitely Manta is a go-to for any thrill seeker.
I thought this was the best queue line that I've seen. Obviously, I haven't been to the Disney and Universal parks. Obviously, I know those are a lot better. But Manta was a really good theming all around. And the operations were pretty good. They just could have been a little bit faster. They did pretty good at getting people on and off, and the tilt at the beginning when you get into that flying position is really cool. The view when you go up the lift hill is also pretty comfortable, and it's a really good view. So this ride was absolutely amazing. I was not expecting the pretzel loop at all. I was expecting like something different out of the pretzel loop, but you were like completely upside down for a few seconds, and I was not expecting that.
Yeah, as you were saying, you were like fully staring at the ceiling. Or at like the sky, not the ceiling. But it was really unexpected. It was really unexpectedly forceful. I've heard people say mixed opinions on it's really forceful and it's really not. I'm on the really forceful side. I mean, it felt like my neck felt like it was getting crushed, but in like a good way. I mean, it didn't hurt, but like you could really feel it. Anyway, moving on to number 1. We have the one that you were probably all expecting for number 1. We have Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens, Tampa. Iron Gwazi absolutely blew our expectations out the window, through the sky, break at the sound barrier, everything and so on. The death roll, or the death drop, whatever you call it, is really unexpected. I didn't actually know there was it. That's now probably my favorite element on like any coaster. It was really unexpected. It was good pacing, intensity, everything. It felt like there was again no brakes on this ride, although you did slow down significantly sometimes, especially after the drop. But on the death roll drop, you felt like you slowed down a little bit. But either way, this ride was really, really enjoyable and really easy to lap.
For sure. This ride was actually pretty much like a 5-minute wait the entire time. Couldn't say that today. It was like 90 minutes the entire day. But when we went, this ride was pretty much a walk on the entire day, so we got a bunch of laps. This ride was actually really smooth, but if you don't know what way you're about to go, you could see it as janky because it like jerks you to a side. But this ride was absolutely amazing. Easy number 1 at Busch Gardens and the entire 3-park chain that we went to. But this ride was absolutely amazing. The hybrids are just undisputed. Like Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point, even though I think Top Thrill 2 is better, Steel Vengeance is really close to number 1. So just hybrids are just built different. Like they're way too good.
Yeah, I could agree. My number 1 is Steel Vengeance, and my number 2 is Iron Gwazi. So hybrids are really unmatched, and they're really hard to predict where you're moving. And I don't know if you call that a death drop or a death roll as you're going down the hill on Steel Vengeance, but again, that element is really, really enjoyable. Either way, that was our Busch Gardens / SeaWorld / FUNSPOT Orlando list. But that's a lot of slashes. But either way, that was everything that we kind of did at all these parks. Sorry if you didn't see what your favorite ride, like Journey to Atlantis or Cheetah Hunt, or even SheiKra, all those were down for maintenance or just down in general. So, either way, thank you for tuning in for this about 28-minute long video. Yeah, this is kind of long. I'm probably going to have to cut some of this. But either way, it was a really fun experience. And make sure to go check out Paws Imperfections. I'll have him tagged in the description, and he'll probably comment, and I'll probably pin that. But either way, really enjoyable. These parks I totally recommend. Like, all these parks are absolutely amazing and well-themed. I did feel like some of these rides actually matched up with Disney theming. Like, if you ride Expedition Odyssey and you've ridden Soarin', they're basically the exact same thing. But honestly, I liked Expedition Odyssey better. And that wraps up our video. We'll see you in the next one.
See ya. Also, thanks for our about 28 minutes of yapping. I know this was way too long for 16 rides, but we just have a lot to say, and these rides were incredible. So, see you in the next one.